Well, I certainly, am happy that our stream is back to where it should be, and we're having a great conversation. Technotron says, also when you build yourself in game, the gear means a lot more. Yes, it's not just a disposable inventory item; it's your stuff, and hopefully you try to take care of your stuff. I fully agree. That's a great exercise, Technotron. You hear that, everyone out there? That's your homework. Go make yourself as a arbitrary, right? You want to cap yourself, say a 5th level character. Make a 5th level character that you think represents who you are. Why not? Have fun with it. Play around. Challenge yourself to think about yourself and your own reasons why you do the things you do. Oftentimes we just do it because it seems like the best course of action and we may never give it a lot of thought. If you make yourself as a character, it's going to force you to slow down and examine your thinking process. Santa. That's right. Where's my trusty hand axe? Behind your friend's eye. As we are going through actually the creation process, the storytelling process, don't forget, you know, we're talking about the 3 whys. We're talking about these personal challenges. If you are looking to make a world, or even a corner of a world, such as a settlement or a province or a kingdom or even just a little, 3 hills in a farming village, treat it like you would a character. Those hills exist for a reason. And let's go through the process. Technotron, you can be my guinea pig here, okay? And so I will put you under the same microscope. You told me, in our thought experiment, you told me that you want to start your adventure in a little farming village, and there's the big notable feature is there are 3 hills. Technotron, why are there 3 hills? This is where I hope it's only a 10-second delay between chat and and my microphone. Santa, if you're noodling on an answer, why are there 3 hills in this farming village? I mean, really, I put Technotron on just for funsies. But if you have an answer, Santa, why are there 3 hills in this farming village? Any answer. Doesn't matter. Awful lot of thinking going on. What's the first thing? Gut instinct. What's the first thing that comes to mind? This is improvisation. Small farming village, 3 hills. Why? Santa says the 3 hills are because there once was a time when a king couldn't pick between his sons to be the heir. Why? Why could he not pick between his sons, Santa? Come on, we're improvising. Gotta go. Why couldn't he pick between his sons? This is why number 2. He couldn't pick between his sons because they showed signs of corruption and vice. Why? Why were his sons showing signs of corruption and vice? This is why number 3. Because the queen kept spreading lies within the realm. There you go. Dun, 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 dun. We just did a 3 whys, and look what was just developed by asking those questions. We have now made a history of this realm. At some point in time, there was a corrupt queen that was spreading lies in the realm, that was affecting the princes, and was making them, very naughty children. And so this king, who otherwise wanted to split, or wanted someone to be the heir, couldn't decide, and so now the 3 princes are buried underneath 3 hills, and presumably, if we're talking about a farming village surrounded by 3 hills, this kingdom must have fallen into despair or disrepair or both, and now it's just reduced down to a little farming village nestled between the tombs of 3 corrupt princes. And all that took was a little bit of pressure, but it was asking why 3 times to a 1-sentence response. Third Falcon, hello and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. It's good to have you back, Falcon. Pressure makes diamonds. Oh, that's right, Santa. You are sparkling. So that was a fun little exercise in the 3 whys. And so think about that, right? If you are building a kingdom, a continent, a province, a settlement, why does that place exist? Why do a bunch of people want to chop down trees and make houses and pig pens and garden beds and all this other stuff? What's the reason? Is it for survival? Are they pilgrims from another land seeking a better life? You keep following this path, and it'll take you in this chain of cause and effect anywhere you want to go. And if you as a DM can answer those questions, what is Daggerford known for, besides being a starting point for the Curse of Strahd module? Well, a possible one. Yes, Falcon, more D&D talk. We are going from character creation into map making and a little bit of campaign planning, Third Falcon. So there's always the question of why. If you can answer that as a DM, you do not need an entire encyclopedia worth of campaign setting. Can you make it up on the fly, and can you connect the dots afterwards? Congratulations, you're a DM. You did it. Your Dungeon Master's Guide is excellent for pointing out generic world building. It doesn't even have to be just Dungeons and Dragons, as kind of like Falcon was. Are we talking about more of that? It doesn't even just have to be D&D. This is excellent world building for a lot of other role-playing games or other settings as well. What's the purpose? What's the local color? Is this a home base of some kind? Is this an adventure site? How big? Is this a village of, no more than 1,000? A town? A city? What kind of government exists here? And in fact, for tonight's exercise, we are going to, much like we randomly generate a character, we are going to just generate, we're going to generate terrain. We're going to generate a city or something. I don't know. We'll see what it looks like. And we're going to have fun doing it, and we're going to connect those dots. We'll challenge ourselves with this improv. As Santa said, pressure makes diamonds. So let's make some diamonds in our brains. Let's take seemingly random or disparate details and weave them together in a way that makes sense. That we can send our adventurers, on a quest in this setting or through this setting. So for example, let's pick 2 terrain types. I will add a caveat that we base this on the 8 different terrain types found in Ranger and Druid class entries. This week, we actually have already produced a Ranger character who actually exists very comfortably in the Underdark and mountains and coastline. If we were designing this campaign setting to fully fit our Ranger character, then we could just choose 2 of the 3 that he is already proficient in. If we want to say, well, he's an outsider and let's challenge him to maybe find some similarities, we can still just roll randomly, or we can just go 1 and 1. As the DM, that's your call. If you have a player character that is making a ranger that is beneficial in certain types of terrain, do you feel obligated to provide that terrain all the time, some of the time, none of the time? Those are the questions you need to ask yourself and consult with your players, if not directly, then indirectly. With that note, I want to randomly generate an area, and we will see if it does overlap a little bit with our ranger. Otherwise, when we go through to make our campaign or we talk about the party, we can discuss creative uses for the ranger's abilities when a terrain type isn't predominant. You know, we'll get there. So we'll minimize that. Our 2 terrain types are 5 and 4. These are placeholders that we're generating, so stick with it, okay? Much like we make placeholders for our characters. Our weird locales and monuments are D20 rolls, so we're gonna do 16, 13, 6. There we go. Names, we'll get to names. Those aren't, that'll be a finishing touch. It's a bow wrapped around the nice present. Races. Race relations is a D20 on the chart down below in the Dungeon Master's Guide. 2. Now we're going to use the random roll chart that we use to determine what are the 2 major races that exist. 6 and 7. There we go. Government style. This is done on a percentile chart, as indicated here on page 18. Let's roll a percentile and find out which kind of government this area falls under. 83. We are looking at a meritocracy. A meritocracy, the most intelligent and educated people oversee the society, often with a bureaucracy to handle the day-to-day work of government. In the Forgotten Realms, scholarly monks preside over the fortress library of Candlekeep, overseen by a master of lore called the Keeper. So in this case, a bunch of smarties are making the decision, and then there is a group of bureaucrats or other people who will then take the orders and fulfill them in whichever tasks are necessary, right? So we have thinkers who can plan the roads, but then we actually just need a road builder to go and do so. Yep, bunch of smarties, Santa. So we have a meritocracy. The ruler status is determined with a D20. 11. Notable traits known for and current calamity. These are all D20s, and we're going to roll a D20 twice for the name of the best inn in town. Because look, good adventure locations have a decent inn, don't they? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to generate 5 D20 rolls at one time. 7, 15, 14, 13, and 11. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, you have effectively a fully formed region for you to begin or even just completely run a campaign inside of. Just look at this. a couple names and a couple numbers. And all we're going to do, we've cast our lots into the augury dish, and now let's read the results. Falcon, thank you very much for coming along on the journey with us. Thank you for the follow. I hope you're enjoying yourself and in seeing and hearing what we do, why we do it, how we do it, etc. And also, Santa, yes, after the 3 whys, there's more questions. The hows, the hows and whatnot. GC, RGC, hello. Good to see you back, man. It has been a while. I'm glad that you made your way over here. Thank you very much. There we go. Ah, Third Falcon. Run, follow me if you want to live. Oh, and we have a frolicking llama that's coming along for the journey too. Oh, yeah. Very cool. Thank you. Yep, you know what though, GC? We're still around. We're still doing D&D content. I took a little bit of a summer vacation a bit ago, and the channel's growing. We're doing more content and more different kinds of content. We have a lot going on here. And, you know, look, you and others, you have real life stuff that's going on. I totally understand that. You know, get it done. You got to take care of your real life stuff before you can come and have fun and hang out with, you know, with the other boys and girls here in our corner of Twitch. Thank you, Falcon. I very much appreciate that sentiment. And that is an adorable emote, llama. Oh, look at that. That is adorable. Oh, man. You all have... Now, look. I understand I'm affiliate. I technically do have emotes. I don't have them uploaded yet because that's getting in the works. But when I see all of the fun stuff that you all promote, you know, these emotes from your channel or other channels, it really, it's inspiring, and it makes me want to make sure that I'm still delivering very good quality. Well, there'll be emotes, but also a good quality stream that you all want to continue to participate and follow and chat or lurk, or even spam cute little emotes like that. So, I'm sorry, getting back on track. Meanwhile, in the stream, this is a fully formed, what you see up here, this is a fully formed area for you to run your adventure. All it requires is a little translation, and I think we can do that. We're going to continue to scroll down until we get to the proper set of charts. And don't be afraid to, if you know that you want to run something as a traditional feudal kingdom, do so. The reason why we go completely random here on the channel is to challenge our brains to not just get into a comfortable pattern of thinking. Have any of you run a meritocracy in your campaign world? Maybe you have, and I'm not trying to sound presumptuous. How many of you knew what the word meritocracy meant? Or that it even existed? I'm not saying you don't have to answer, and I'm not saying that to, you know, make fun of anyone. That's not a common word. In D&D, we often think, okay, so it's just kingdoms and empires. You know, there's clearly no democracies or republics. Or, you know, maybe there's a theological kingdom, you know, the next one over that everyone thinks is kind of weird. Or whatever. And we fall into these ruts of thinking where, okay, everyone gets a kingdom. I'm going to describe, you're in the kingdom of so-and-so. Next door is the kingdom of so-and-so. The two kingdoms are not getting along. And so now we kind of have a battle of attrition chess game between the two kingdoms. Those can make for some awesome campaigns. Do not get me wrong. But I want to make sure that in this channel, we can always go back into our ruts. We can always play the characters we like, and we can always, you know, go back to our feuding kingdoms as a staple of storytelling. But for a couple hours on an evening, we're going to hit that bump and pop out of those ruts for a little bit before we can fall back in, which is something that I do. I'm guilty of that too. I'm not just here, you know, throwing stones at, you know, at your glass houses. All right, multiverse, continuing on. The DMG has such good information. Especially if you are a DM But even if you're a PC and you're thinking, I don't know, it might be kind of cool, or if you're a writer and you want to get through writer's block, you keep a DMG next to you. This will help bust you through any writer's block you think you may have. Okay, so here we go. Now we're getting into the charts for which we rolled. GC says, that's amazing and congrats on the channel growing. We have had some sad things happen, but had some great things happen. That's why I came back, because of the people. Well, GC, you do not have to divulge anything personal, but even with that broad explanation and the fact that you said that you want to come out and hang out with folks like us, that's a compliment. Thank you very much. And, you know, if you need a little bit of cheer, a little bit of challenge, you need to vent, you want to, you know, a little distraction to take your mind off of something, for, you know, for good or bad, we're here for it. Not just here when we broadcast, but don't forget our Discord too. Because as much as I enjoy broadcasting to you all, I'm not online all the time, in a live fashion. But I and others, we can share and get back to you on Discord too. In fact, just in case, if any of you out there are not a part of it and you do join our Discord, make sure 2 things. 1, that your Discord name syncs up to your YouTube handle. And 2, we keep it safe for work to be very accessible. So, you know, PG-13, that kind of stuff. Diadems is going on a roll through the plains. Welcome back, Diadems. Diadems is being a very naughty person at work and watching us stream during breaks. A 14 and a 12. Oh, you took care of that. Dark Wolf, are you still around to award EXP? So now let's begin populating our corner of the world that we're going to contain our campaign inside on Saturday when we go through it. As I like populating areas with unique features, I enjoy adding a couple monuments of some kind and even a weird locale for a little bit of supernatural flair. So we're in monuments. Monument number 13 is a ruined or toppled statue of a person or deity. Pat, it has been a while. I hope you've been well, man. I mean, you and, you know, your family, and oh, you have those gorgeous cats. Pat, I know stuff happens in real life and we can't always hang out, but you can't break the cats up. Come on, man. You can't tease us with those beautiful pictures of those cats you have and just and just deny us. Oh, that great. No. I was talking to GC about this too. It's perfectly fine. None of you are obligated to be here, and in fact, because you could be anywhere else right now and you're choosing to be here, I value that highly, and I very much appreciate it. Monument number 6. An intact obelisk etched with a warning. Historical lore, dedication, or religious iconography. All right. Maybe some ideas are starting to percolate up in your brain about what this place could be or do. Oh, no. I meant you broke them away from us, Pat. We couldn't see your cats. Weird locales, number 16. Ooh, a river ferry guided by a skeletal captain. Ooh, are your brains starting to work? Get some sparks going between your neurons here? Continuing down. Race relations. 2. There is harmony. Very good. Yeah, kind of like a Charon. A Charon, Charon. Exactly, Pat. Let's consult our guide real quick. So, the major race in this area is number 6, gnomes. And specifically, let's go odds or evens on a d10. Evens, we are talking forest gnomes. The minor race that live here are half-elves. Now, I don't know if any of you flavor your half-elf characters to say, "Oh yes, I'm of high elf parentage. I'm of wood elf stock. I am part drow," or something along those lines. You know, so if half-elves are abundant here, elves are a fey creature. Forest gnomes are a fey creature. Half-elves, so that might imply that, you know, what if elves and gnomes are getting along in such a way that it's actually producing more like gnome, like the half isn't human, so that they run on the short side. You could do that. Sure, it's your world. You know, do what you're gonna do. Have fun, mix it up, defy expectations, pop out of those ruts. If you still want it to be humans and elves, that's perfectly fine. Or maybe the forest gnomes have created an area of sanctuary, and so there's a lot of half-elves that live here despite not a lot of humans or elves, because they, I don't know, they set up this place to be very friendly for those who have this mixed blood. While we're here, let's look at our terrain types. We're going to roll 2d8. Oh, we had a 5 and a 4. I'm sorry. 5 is grasslands and 4 is forest. There we go. Skeleton gnome captain who is cursed to ferry those who pay with special coins to another dimension, but with normal coins they only transport people from shore to shore. Yeah, maybe there could be some kind of you know, if you have the right payment, wink wink, then you get taken to more than just the other side of the river here. And of course, too, you know, if we don't have a river, if we don't want a river, it could be someone, if this was coastland, maybe he paddles people up and down the coast. Maybe he paddles people across a lake, a very large lake. Across a swamp, even. You know, have fun with it. This is prompting you, but take that prompt and run it in a fun direction that helps you tell a story. Okay, these can go down now. Dun, dun, dun. The ruler status is 11. Ruled or controlled by a powerful monster. How about that? Yeah, or from coast to an island. Exactly, Pat. Or even, what about this? Maybe there used to be a river, but there isn't anymore. And so you're actually just paddled across a desert. Or you're paddled across the great grasslands in this vehicle. It's supernatural already. What's to keep him from taking you a long distance from one area to the next? Does it have to be on water? Was there ever water? Maybe there was and now there's not. Ooh. Add a little bit of spice. So, ruled or controlled by a powerful monster. And also bear in mind that the government is a meritocracy. So therefore, some cadre of very intelligent monsters runs the government of this region, assigning tasks to then probably the gnomes and some half-elves in order to carry out. Monsters can be, although there's a lot of different personalities. It, you know, if they're running it for a specific goal to make money or to produce food or something along those lines, well. Yeah, to like sail a wagon the prairie of grassland. Exactly, Pat. Yep. So it could still be on a rowboat that floats or a ferry that floats. Or maybe it's a skeletal driver of, you know, a covered wagon that'll take you hither and thither. So I want you all to think this government is ruled or controlled by a powerful monster. Yeah, a stereotypical monster would be a lich or a dragon. So that being said, I don't mind putting in a lich or a dragon or a beholder or an illithid. But can you challenge yourselves to think of some other kind of monster, perhaps? You know, we are in a grasslands and a forest area. What other kind of intelligent monster would want to set up a society of forest gnomes and half-elves? What does it do? Why does it exist? Well, we'll continue this journey. What's the notable trait about this place? Number 7. It is a major trade center. So whoever's ruling this can, you know, skim a copper off of every transaction and live to be a very wealthy person. Falcon, how about a shape changer? So some kind of a lycanthrope, you mean? Like a werebear or a werewolf or a wereboar? Something like that? Pat is offering a tribe of kobolds that the chieftain gained possession of a rod of rulership or a staff of rulership. Therefore, giving this kobold chieftain, you know, magical intelligence or otherwise magical influence. That could be. In its own way, I ran a meritocracy in my first campaign world, although it was a little bit different. Everyone who is elected to lead was done so because they were functional in society, but they weren't smart people. And the reason being, kind of getting to what Pat's talking about, is they had a relic in their possession called the Silent Pearl. Like Psilin, the Silent Pearl. And the reason why these unintelligent people were elected to positions of power is because they don't know a lot and therefore must ask questions. So the civil service exam is more a test of what you don't know, yet how can you phrase a question the best way to be able to get an answer. For you see, the Silent Pearl was very intelligent. It was also very neutral in nature. It didn't really have an agenda. In fact, it just wanted people to stop talking to it. So it would give very short, concise, informed, and neutral answers. And so when you have an artifact like this that is consulted by a bunch of people who are hand-selected to ask the best questions from a position of not having knowledge, then it means that the people trust the question making, the question making, and they already intrinsically entrust the answers, but they don't know what the answers are because the question hasn't been developed yet. Think of 42 in the Hitchhiker's Guide. Okay, that's the answer. What's the question? Well, I mean, so it's maybe a little. They know the answers are good, but what are the questions to ask? And so the rulers were just elected to ask questions from a point of no information to be able to get the best decision for how to function as a society. And it kept peace between the gnomes and the halflings since kind of a great civil war. It was actually kind of a black spot in the history. Like, you might not think of halflings and gnomes warring. Oh, it was bloody. It was vicious. Those little people figured out all kinds of ways to kill each other until they discovered this artifact, and they realized that the artifact could create this sense of fairness between the two, right? It was neither a gnome nor a halfling, and so it was able to just give detached answers that were still intelligent and made sense. third Falcon is a doppelganger. So a doppelganger of what or who, though, Falcon? So the leader could be a shape changer, but think of your idea and flesh it out a little bit. If it is a doppelganger, it is a doppelganger of what or whom? Or why has a doppelganger taken over rulership? If it's ruled or controlled by a powerful monster. Or are you implying that people don't know that it's ruled by a monster, and everyone just trusts, oh yeah, it's Bob. We elected Bob as mayor like 2 months ago, and he's going to serve for 2 years before being a farmer again or whatever. And so this is actually a secret. Is it secretly that a monster has eaten Bob and taken his form, and this is a big plot reveal? With it being a major trade center being ruled or controlled by a powerful monster, maybe a storm or a cloud giant, and the trade center is in a desert where the center is an oasis. Well, we have ruled, we've ruled or rolled that this area is going to take place in grasslands and forest. I like the idea, Pat, don't get me wrong. Though, if we're kind of abiding by what we've rolled as guidelines, then we'll have to modify that a little bit. Falcon. Okay, so Falcon, that's the case. So everyone thinks it's just Farmer Bob who is ruling over this place, and everyone knows Farmer Bob, when secretly, behind the scenes, oh, it is the villainous Frenchman, the doppelganger, who has assumed Bob's Robert's form, and is now pulling all of the strings. Spillheart haveth returnedeth. This area is known for its 15. It's known for its wines. There we go. And any new ruler gets killed, then replaced by the same doppelganger. Oh, so maybe the doppelganger is kind of a parasite on this community. I see. Well, that could provide for a very interesting bit of adventure. Some adventure fodder, right? Maybe a mystery to figure out. And if not a last boss, well, look. Is this an isolated doppelganger or a mimic of some kind? Or is it working on behalf of someone else? What's happened? Very interesting. Third Falcon, you might be onto something. What is the current calamity going on in the city or the region? Because look, you can live in small town USA and there's still stuff going on. This current calamity is number 14. There is a prophecy of doom. And any new ruler... Oh, no, that was the same sign. Aha, there's a prophecy of doom. And you know what? Doppelgangers don't like doom just as much as adventurers or, level 0 common farmers. And so I could very much see that, look, if this doppelganger has set up a pretty sweet gig, kind of eating people and replacing them to, constantly always be the leader of the place in order to have a place to live and income, he doesn't want doom to befall things. And so that could create a very interesting moral hazard later on. If the party discovers the true secret of the mayor of town, or the leader of town, right? And yet they're working for him, and he's paying them. Is the party going to turn on him? And, is the party going to, get rid of that dirty secret? If they kill the doppelganger that's been pulling the strings all this time, what's that going to do to the trade community? What's that going to do to the wines that are produced here? Ooh, is that making you tingle? Is that putting you in a little bit of a conundrum? Hey, 12, good to see you. A Rakshasa? That could be a very compelling monster behind the scenes as well. Pat says, what if the doppelganger is doing its best to run the trade center properly and replaces any new ruler that is incompetent? Oh, yeah, so it fills in the gaps quite literally. That's interesting. Right? Because it's a meritocracy. Smarties are the ones who are supposed to rule. And finally, the name of the best inn in town. It is called the 1311 or the Roaring Goat. Especially if they have made NPC friends that were really doppelgangers. Yeah, so actually, what if the meritocracy is just like a family of doppelgangers that have moved in and been kind of like brain slugging people? They might not necessarily even have to be malicious and kill people to take their form. I mean, maybe it happens. You know, this is a different species. It has its own thing going on. I mean, here I am just dismissing Farmer Bob's death as, yeah, it's natural. But the big question is, what would you order at the Roaring Goat? Yeah, diadems, Rakshasas are very interesting and compelling monsters. They're definitely smarty pants, too. And you know what? Maybe a Rakshasa is the one who's actually pulling the strings and is cowing the doppelgangers. There are layers. We can, we can do this. So yeah, what is a place like the Roaring Goat known for? Music? Obviously wine. Meals? A particular meal? Dancing? Companionship? Is it known for, I don't know, does it have kind of like a little wrestling arena so that, people can wrestle and fight? It's not a big gladiatorial thing, but maybe the Roaring Goat offers a little bit of a place for people to tussle or to arm wrestle. Maybe they have games of skill. The 12 says euros. Yes, the Roaring Goat is known for very delicious euros. Offbeat music. Is that why it's called the Roaring Goat? Goat, but you get to pick your food and they butcher there, so you get meat fresh. That's where the roaring part comes from. All right, Falcon, thank you for contributing your ideas. I think we'll work with that doppelganger idea that you threw out there. So thanks for participating, and look forward to seeing wherever this takes us. So yeah, there you go. You all have your thinking caps on. What's a place like the Roaring Goat known for? Diadems, it looks like I still need to owe you some EXP. Darkwolf might have zonked out here, so I'm going to get you some experience points. Yep, we'll let you know about it, Falcon. No problem. You can always go back and pop over in the VOD if you want, or watch it on YouTube later, but it'll definitely be coming up on Saturday when we make our campaign, okay? Spillheart, the commands for that sort of stuff are down below if you scroll just a bit. You're very welcome, Diadems. All right. Well, you know what, everyone? So we have a really good setup, right? We have a culture, we have a region, we have enough that we can make this area. Whatever it'll be, right? It's primarily going to be grasslands and forests, so it's probably going to be landlocked. Remember, every settlement needs a source of water of some kind. Whether it's an underground spring, whether it's a river, a lake, it could be magical, right? Maybe there's some magical desalination going on. Maybe there's a natural process that's causing something to happen for fresh water. So make sure to ask yourself, where are people getting water? Maybe it just rains a whole lot. And so people can either dig wells or they just put out rain barrels because it rains every other day, maybe. And if that's the case, then, you know, do they need a lake? No, they just wait a day and their barrel fills up and they have plenty of water. And remember, too, this says grasslands and forest. You know, it doesn't have to be the Great Plains of the United States. This could be the taiga of, you know, the taiga or the steppes of, you know, in Russia or Mongolia. This could be the savanna in Africa, very dry. Forest can be a rainforest. It could be a jungle. It could be a deciduous forest, a coniferous forest, mixed. It could be giant sequoias and redwoods in this almost, you know, maybe an almost supernatural growth of giant ferns. What if it's a forest of mushrooms, right? Again, I don't mind if we slip back into ruts, you know, into the traditional lines of thinking. But there's a lot of different types of grasslands. There's a lot of different types of forests that are either literal or metaphorical. It could even be a grassland that has a species of grass that just grows super big. And so there's no real trees. You just get a bunch of small and medium-sized grass that suddenly turns into blades of grass that are 20, 30 feet high blowing in the breeze. And that's your forest. It's a forest of grasses. Bamboo is a grass, by the way. You want to talk about forests? Do we want to set this in kind of an oriental setting? You know, do we have these kind of coastal grasslands and bamboo forests a little bit further inland? I don't know. What sounds good to you all? Bring a little spice, you know? What would you like to see given the elements that are prompted? Diadems, the 8-ball says, oh no. Oh, yep, ripperonis. I mean, it's not like instant death diadems, but that's not the best card in the deck. Why grass? What about mushrooms and such? Yeah, that's true. It could be a giant field of flowers or mushrooms. You know, so grasslands is more. It's an open expanse is what it's really hinting at. An open expanse that's not desert. You know, so there is actually scrub brush, you know, bushes, maybe some trees and stuff, but it's very open with, you know, this kind of vegetation. So yeah, you all throw out some ideas. What would you like to see? Do we just want a straight up like vanilla grasslands and forest? Do you want to flavor it in some other way? Do you want to make it a little spicy? Do you want to have it be a forest of bamboo and grasslands of mushrooms? Do you want to have it be the opposite? How do you want to flavor these? Let me know. There we go. All right, so let's do this then. I'll fill in some of the gaps. Why don't we have it be a forest of mushrooms and and a grassland that is consisting of, let's have it be a grassland of, we'll even just call it bamboo, right? A grassland of bamboo and a forest of mushrooms. 12 was looking for an oak forest. We can change it up. 12, do you want an oak forest instead of a mushroom forest? Throwing it out there? Okay. Well then let's make it a little bit more exotic. Oak forests are beautiful. Very practical too. And you get a big forest full of just endless hardwoods. Oh, you could do some really good stuff. Hey Fana, good to see you. You got to go get up in 6 hours. All right, Pat, thank you for coming by and saying hi again. You know, sleep well, work hard, and I look forward to seeing you online here or in our Discord the next time you can pop by. Thank you again for coming in, Pat, and give your kitties some pets for me, please. All right, so let's look at things here. If we have bamboo and mushrooms, we are presuming that there is going to be a lot of water in some fashion. Bamboo just it famously it just drinks up a lot of water, and mushrooms tend to grow where things are damp. Now, look, these could be fantasy mushrooms. Obviously, they are. If there's a forest of them, they're going to be huge, huge mushrooms. Kind of makes you wonder, what are they growing on? What's the ground you're walking on? All this and more. So we have our grasslands. It needs to be a wet area of some kind. So we can have... We're going to get just sort of kind of a loosey-goosey drawing here. Why don't we have a river kind of meandering through an area that then could have some tributaries and or some canals dug off of them in order to bring water out to the other areas that they're needed. Now, here's a little bit of a lesson in geography here. Ready? So when you have a straight river, right? Or, it's close. Water always follows the path of least resistance. And then you have a rock or something falls right here. Well, you have the water flow. It can no longer go in the straight line. So what happens is the water hits the rock and goes up this way, displacing more water coming up here. And what that does is that puts more erosive force on the opposite bank of the obstruction. And so over time, what you see happen is this. The water course starts changing like so. Before it kind of falls back in and resumes its natural course, right? Well, there's a point in time where this is starting to come along here and almost double back, right? So the water's hitting still this bank of the new stream. And so it's eroding it and bringing it up and carrying it down. Oh, sorry. Here. There we go. I hope that helps. And so what happens is, eventually, the erosive forces continue to hit where you see the red, and eventually the stream just busts through, and it resumes its natural course. And so what happens is now this part of the river kind of like heals over. Yet it's already a rut that's been eroded into the ground. And what you get is something called an oxbow lake. If you just do a Google search for an oxbow lake, you'll find plenty of examples. And I doubt that there's a lot of Rule 34 you have to worry about a safe search for oxbow lakes. It's a very fascinating thing to have happen, and it's fun to explain and to watch. But anyway, that's also why you get a lot of rivers that are just sort of like wibbly wobbly like this, right? Because eventually, given enough time, if things are dammed up or developed, that river is actually just going to punch right through, and then you're going to get a bunch of oxbow lakes here. Does this process make sense to you all? Oh, I'm sure, Fanog. I'm sure you'll find something, especially for the Great Lakes. So what I'm envisioning then is actually, let's just go back. There we go. Why don't we have a lot of water flowing through this area that is bamboo grasslands and a forest of mushrooms? You know, it'll require a lot of water. Let's get a lot of water flowing through our map. We need fresh water to have a settlement. Epion, okay, I'm glad it makes sense, and if you need me to explain anything, let me know. I'll be happy to do so. This is a workshop. It's supposed to be instructional. It's supposed to be conversational. So why don't we have a river kind of coming in from, I don't know, off map somewhere. And it's coming up. Remember, your water always takes the path of least resistance. So we are making a topographical map, even though we're just drawing out a meandering river, okay? This is still showing the topography of the land. Because unless it's magically meant to do so otherwise, it's not going to flow uphill on its own. There we go. And we'll give it a little sister squiggle. Maybe it kind of blows out a little bit, right? Here's a little bit of an island. There we go. Nothing wrong with that. Just because we roll the majority as bamboo and mushrooms doesn't mean you can't have a little fun with your river. Right? Maybe here it actually kind of, ooh, it gets really wide. And it's bowing out, and then it's going to come back in and get really tight. And then maybe right here we see something interesting. It's an island. Like, so here's more a traditional island. Here you can almost say that the river might even just split up in a couple like slivers. Before it comes back together over here. Coming across, coming down, up, down, all around. Maybe we get a little, I don't know, you get some weird little, like, Not tributaries, but there's something going on with the topography over there. Right? Mix it up. Look at stuff that's around you. Is there a comb by your desk? Make a part of your river look like a comb. Is there like a bottle of vitamins or something next to you? Make something kind of look like a pill, right? There you go. Use what's around you. Rivers are supposed to look like rivers. They're all squiggly lines on a map. Don't beat yourself up over how your river appears. If your PCs are going to get upset at you that your river doesn't look like a river enough, then you challenge your PCs to draw a river for you. And you know what? We're going to have it kind of come out and it just dead ends right here. So I'm going to come back over here. Have a nice, there you go. And this is going to break off, and it's just going to break off into a little finger that doesn't really go anywhere. And that's fine too. That's perfectly fine. Right? Make it kind of cool. Make your characters ask questions as a DM. Make them want to engage with the world and explore it. Here, we'll give this one a little hat up here. There we go. Oh, Dark Wolf, you made the chips too thick, but they're pretty tasty. What chips did you make, Dark Wolf? Would it work the same for underground, say, in the Underdark? Yeah, Epion, rivers are just a process of erosion. Any river is a process of erosion, and I'll tell you, the reason why caves and sinkholes exist is because water exists. And here's a very good adage to remember. Water always wins. Water always wins. If water can get into something, it will get into it. Because water settles in all the low places of the land. It trickles. It takes its time. It's not concerned with a rush. It'll follow the path of least resistance, and yet it is a force in and of itself. The reason why many parts of the Underdark look like they do is because there's a river that either flowed at some point in time or is currently flowing through them. Or if it rains really heavily above, all of that water trickles down through the limestone and the substrates and all of these other layers of rock, and they carve out the caverns. They make stalactites and stalagmites. This may as well be an Underdark river. There's nothing saying that it can't be. And thank you very much for the follow too, Epion. Okay, now let's fill in some dots, shall we? Let's make some little sandbars or something here as our little islands. There you go. We can even make some little sandy patches if we really want to. You know, shores, beaches, things like that. There could be little swaths of them, and it doesn't have to run the entirety of your river either. You know, if there's sediment enough that it's kind of swirling and accumulating in here, this could very well be a sandy patch right here. Whoops. And actually kind of swirls around like this. And you can have it be on one or both banks if you really want. And this one ends right here, we'll say. And then we'll say that there's a little bit more, I don't know, riverbank. We'll kind of flesh it out and have it be a little crescent. In fact, we can call this the like crescent moon beach or something, right? Just a fun little crescent of soft sand right here. And wherever else you want. Llama, it will show up a lot better. Just give me 1 second. I promise. Bear with me. So go through and add your silt, add your sediment, add little islands. If you want just a little patch of something hither and thither, maybe this little snaky bit here is running through some sandy area. And it only exists on the one side. That's fine. Okay, so now, Llama, prepare because we are going to get some green to contrast this this kind of off-white. Okay, we're dealing with grasslands of bamboo, so I'm going to use a light green in order to help fill in parts of the map, and you'll see how it'll become a lot more visible. Hey, Imagination, thank you for stopping by again. Prepare your eyeballs. Here we go. Boom. Boom. Now, we come over here, and we go boom. Boom. Hopefully the yellow is a little easier to see now. Here's our grassland, and our river is just traveling lazily throughout it. However, this is a grassland of bamboo. And you have to imagine, bamboo can be pretty thick, right? It grows very rapidly, you know. So a lot of what we're doing, you know, this could be one single settlement that exists along several miles of both sides of the riverbank. It's not just a roundish blob you stick right in the middle. Because what if it's very hard to develop in the bamboo grasslands? And so most of this settlement is actually just meandering all along the river. And so what you can do here, if you want to indicate it, and Llama, you want to talk about making things stand out, let's say that, you know, even if it's just, you know, farming or something simple, it doesn't have to be a major metropolitan concrete jungle, you know, like a New York or a Chicago. But let's just say that gray represents, you know, buildings and society and foundation. And we want to go with this concept that it's very hard for this settlement to actually build out into the wilds of the bamboo grasslands, let alone when it turns into this forest of mushrooms, okay? So what we can do is we say, all right, so the river kind of comes up, and the settlement can actually build. Maybe there's a little bit of a tunnel, right? Settlement's kind of building along here. Here's some gray, okay. Pops out. Maybe it meets the sandbank here, and we're just following the river. Kind of builds out a little bit, goes back in. There we go. Let's fill this in. There we go. And then it picks up on the other side here. Following the river. There we go. It'll pop out a bit. Because why not? Why wouldn't it pop out? You tell me. If this is a large area, maybe the other side right here is also developed, like so. And there's even maybe some sort of a logging camp right here in the middle, which means that there is going to be kind of a path cut through the bamboo that connects the two areas here. Now, am I using random roll guides? Heck no. I'm just making stuff up as I go along. I'm talking out loud like a madman. It comes across here. So it exists a little bit on this side too, because this is another big like lump of society. kind of makes contact with this little finger right here. And it'll then kind of take over the interior here. Whoa! Little too much society. Hang on now. Hang on. We got this. There we go. Caden, thank you very much for coming by and for the host. Epion, I use the old-fashioned method of graph paper to do my dungeons. This is really helping me a lot because I'm making a dungeon crawl. I'm very glad, Epion. Graph paper puts in a ton of work. And in this case, look, you can always put a graph on something, you know, if you want to do some freeform. If you do have specific dungeon questions, please feel free to ask them. Just because I'm making an outdoor location of this kind of unique, sprawling, this sprawling miles-long settlement that just follows the curvature of a river through a bamboo forest and through a bamboo grassland and a mushroom forest, doesn't mean we can't help you with any questions that you have out there. This is an instructional channel. It's a conversational channel. You have pulled up a chair. You're sitting at a table in a game store, and we're talking like a bunch of RP nerds, okay? Just because I'm presenting something doesn't mean that that you can't bring up another topic, especially if it's a burning question or you say, oh, I'm running tomorrow. Come on, can I please get a little bit of advice? Yes, for sure. And not only can we help you with advice here, if you wanted to join us on Discord, what a face to meet you, right? We have an entire mentor network up here of people who are willing to volunteer a little bit of their time and expertise. If you pop over to our project workshop and you are willing to ask a question and get a little bit of insight on things. Looks like my green screen's showing, huh? Got to get a little bit more light. If any of you out there are going to join us on our Discord, just make sure that your name on Discord matches your Twitch handle to make it a little bit easier to communicate. And it is a safe for work server, a PG-13 one. Okay, no problem, Epion. So here we go. We have this sprawling settlement. Definitely, look, water's not a problem. And you know what? With all of the bamboo that's growing here, let alone any of the fungus, water filtration is probably occurring very rapidly. This society, even if thousands of people live here, even downstream, and it looks like if they're building this way, they're giving the water time to purify by going through roots and silt and sand. Consider this. I don't know if any of you keep a fish tank out there, right? How do you keep your fish tank clean? Because your fish are constantly pooping and peeing in it, right? If the society completely followed the river the entire way, well, I'd hate to live downriver. But if the society is generally building in this perpendicular fashion, it's giving miles and miles and miles of bamboo forest and sand and limestone and whatever else the soils and substrates are to work out any, we'll just be polite and call it impurities that come as a result of a settlement being built next to water. You have a natural filtration for the fresh water that's flowing through this land. Hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully this has given you some good ideas. It's inspiring you in your own ways. And now we say, okay, well, bamboo forest or bamboo grasslands, got it. It's everywhere. What the heck? A mushroom forest. Well, you know what? We just randomly rolled grassland and forest, and through conversation, we kind of decided bamboo and mushrooms. Where do mushrooms live, right? On decaying matter, usually. Very, very cool, you know, kind of very moist. Moist. So think about it. In this grassland area, and where would you find these forests of mushrooms? Where would you find, where would you find them living? Maybe a little downriver. Maybe there's really no rhyme or reason. And in fact, you know, we've all heard of fairy circles, yeah? Like toadstool circles. Like crop circles. What if a part of your forest... I hope this isn't too jarring. I'm going to put red on this map. If it's too jarring, let me know, and I will use dark green to represent our mushroom forest. Okay? What if for some reason kind of just nestled all up in here? There we go. So in the middle is actually a bamboo clearing, but you have a forest that manifests in rings, in these patterns. It's not just kind of a blobby looking area. In fact, what if this part of the settlement exists inside of one of these rings? And no one knows why the mushroom forest wanders and only grows in rings. What's to keep it from doing so? This one might even partially straddle, right? Might even partially straddle the river here. Yeah, have some coming off your map. There's no problem with that. And we'll say that there's actually just a really big one. It's like right here. Really big toadstool circle. Mushroom forest. Very dense, very dark. What if someone important lives in the middle of that circle? I don't know who it could be. Could be a druid circle. Could be a portal to the Feywild. Maybe there's an archfey looking to make a pact with the warlock. 107, this is ODC, but can you fix the red line in the water on the bottom right? Oh, sure. There you go. I'll clean it up over here too for you. As your broadcaster, I should be the only one twitching. I don't want to give any of you kind of a, you know, that itch you can't scratch. CDO is alphabetical. So here we go. Bamboo grasslands, mushroom forest. We have a society that's built perpendicular to a meandering river. The fungus and the bamboo act as a natural filter so that even the society that lives further downriver still has relatively clean and pure water, despite any of the additives that neighbors throw into the water, from upstream. And as we have developed it, right? So now we actually have a literal river ferry guided by a skeletal captain in some way. We can add in this landmark. There's a ruined or toppled statue of a person or deity. Oh, we could put that in a lot of places. There's also an intact obelisk etched with a warning: historical lore, dedication, or religious iconography. Well, you know what? Look at this. There's a prophecy of doom. A very good place for a prophecy of doom could very well be maybe in the middle of a giant mushroom forest that could otherwise be very difficult to get to. How about that? There you go. There's a ruined or toppled statue of a person or deity, so maybe the two are linked in some way, and so we'll actually make a little white star, and we'll say that this exists a little further upriver in this grove of mushroom forest. River Fairy, we have that. So it's made of forest gnomes and half-elves. It's a meritocracy. However, it's kind of been taken over or infected or, symbiote in the best case, parasite in the worst. As we're discussing, a very smart but powerful monster is taken over. And we have said that it's a doppelganger of some kind who enjoys the stability of living at the top. And so the doppelganger will just take the form of the people who are elected official smarty pants of the city in order to continue running it in their absence, quote unquote, whether it's a natural end or an unnatural end. Ninbins, hello. Hello. This is a major trade center? Well, yeah, I'd hope so. Look. The Amazon River. Well, we have the Amazon website named after something for a reason, right? We have a big meandering river. We have this sprawling city, so goods can end up being dumped here, and they can travel laterally across the map too. They don't have to go on the river, but they certainly can. It's known for wines. What kind of wines? I don't know. Maybe they press bamboo roots into a wine. Maybe, and just because it's grasslands doesn't mean that grapes or something else. Well, we were talking about mead earlier, right? Honey wine. Bees could very well be a part of the ecology here in the bamboo grasslands and the mushroom forests. Maybe they make a mushroom wine of some kind, right? Maybe they make a mushroom brew. That could be a local delicacy that they export further down and even up the river. So there's a calamity because there's been some kind of a prophecy of doom that has occurred. And also, the best inn in town is known as the Roaring Goat. The Roaring Goat. In fact, let's place the Roaring Goat. We have miles of city quasi-straddling the river at parts, and even cutting through this very thick, inhospitable bamboo grasslands. Where would the Roaring Goat be? Let's put the Roaring Goat over here. And let's put it right in the middle. Nice, serviceable area. There we go. I'll make that a little darker. There we go. Alexander, have an awesome night. Thank you for stopping by. Yeah, you know what, Epion? Think of what grows along rivers. In very wet places. Rice? What, okra? Requires a lot, like sandy, very spinach, sandy, wet soil. Cattails. You can eat cattails, and if I recall correctly, you can ferment them too. I mean, you could ferment anything. Um, but yeah, dandelions. Weeping willows and other trees for medicines, or other things. A hallucinogenic wine made of mushrooms, that could very well be like a version of absinthe 107. Very much so. That is absolutely a possibility. And yeah, and they could make a sake, like a rice wine. Whew, you got a mushroom forest, and especially if we're talking bamboo and whatnot. And you know what? Soybeans could possibly flourish in the sandy silt of the rivers here, right? This is a very umami palette, right? A very oriental palette that I think we're conceptualizing. Alexander, what do the red circles symbolize? Yep, they are mushroom forests. So Alexander, our random 2 terrains that we rolled tonight for our map were grasslands and a forest. And so I said, well, look, grasslands, when you think of a grassland, what comes to mind? Is it the taiga or the steppes of Russia or Mongolia? Is it the savanna in Africa? Is it the Great Plains of the United States? There's a lot of different types of grasslands. Bamboo is a grass. Think of a forest. What kind of forest do you have? Deciduous? Coniferous? Alpine? Is it a forest of mushrooms or even a forest of bamboo? What kind of is it a forest of oaks and maples? Is it a forest of pine trees and junipers and spruce? Is it a forest of... Actually, do you go from traditional grassland with grass that maybe grows up to your knees or your waist, and the forest is actually just grass that grows so tall and broad that they might as well be trees? And so you go from grassy grassland into a grassy forest. When you're creating a D&D map, have fun. Imagine it. Don't be afraid to step outside a comfort zone, right? And so I said, if we're gonna have mushroom forests, you know how you get those toadstool circles? Mushrooms that all seem to grow in a circle, and they might have magical properties. A gate to the Feywild, or in D&D terms, or it's a fairy circle or a toadstool circle, as some people might call it. And you know what? Maybe in Russian lore, those mushroom circles. I don't know, Alexander. Can you answer that? Is the phenomenon of mushrooms growing in a circle considered to be supernatural in some way? Is there a name for it? Sorry to put you on the spot like that, but I would love to know if something like that exists. Fairy rings is another name. See right here? See? Elf circles, yep. See the curvature? So here's a concept, a bunch of the fair folk dancing around. Also, look, here's fairy rings in moss in Iceland. Why is moss arranging itself to look like this, huh? Oh, well, there you go. We're making a connection. So yeah, fairy circles, pixie rings, things like that. Now there's a scientific reason. If you don't want to spoil yourself, just say it's magical. It's where the fair folk live, right? A traditional Scottish rhyme sums up the danger of such places. He wha tills the fairies green, nae luck again shall hae, and he wha spills the fairies ring, betide him wanton way. For weirdness days and wary nights are his till his dying day, his dying day. But he wha gaze the fairy ring, nae dool nor pine shall see, and he wha cleanse the fairy ring, an easy death shall dee. Folklore, D&D campaign content, woo, 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 woo. Warning, warning, inspiration drawn from real life. Pardon me for my Scottish accent. I didn't want to go like full, like, he what tills the fairies green, nae luck again shall hae. Then I'm kind of sounding like a pirate or like a very drunk dwarf. I was trying to do it a bit thematically. You get what I'm saying. Well, because it's considered a very auspicious event. It's considered a liminal area. A liminality is like a barrier, like a very faint barrier between two kinds of existences or things. And so by stepping into a fairy circle, it could very well jeopardize your health, your luck, your soul, your future, your fortunes, things like that. See? Fairy ring. It could be good, it could be bad. When we come to superstition, who knows? In fact, if we want to go to our map, what if there's actually two different types of mushroom growths? What if you get the dark green kind? You get the dark green mushrooms, and then you get the red mushrooms. Some are good, some are bad, or maybe one is good for one thing, one is bad for the other. Maybe over here you actually get a bit of a creep going on. So this part is green, but it's maybe starting to infect. And we have some other... We have some of the red mushrooms, which maybe people see are beneficial. Some of the red is starting to succumb to the green. And the prophecy of doom could very well be something along the lines of, where the red turns green and other rhymes, and rhymey rhyme and rhyme. And rhyme and rhyme and rhyme and rhyme. Rhyme and rhyme and rhyme. Yeah, it could be some sort of a realm gate. 107. Old English, I agree, Alexander. I very much agree. Epion, well, every good, it is hard to differ accents when it comes to culture. And you know what, though? The more that you roleplay, and if you speak with an accent in roleplaying, not only are you getting good practice, but your friends and your DM will enjoy it if you're not the DM yourself, and it continues to give you practice. It gets you outside of your comfort zone. I was talking to Santa's bleh with an outrageous French accent. Oh, you would not believe how nasal my French accent had become. Oh, ho, ho. Messieurs et mademoiselles, it was so haughty, so, how do you say, haughty, that it was unbelievable. It was cartoonish, my French accent. But you know what? You have fun with it, you practice, and you get more comfortable. More roleplay opportunities open up when you can improvise, when you can breathe more life into your character in some form or fashion. All kinds of fairy circles, see? In fact, there's a satyr playing a pan flute. Dwarves are the hardest because it comes out Scottish or Irish. Yeah, you know what? I love it when we have these conversations, especially because we have a wonderful international presence here on the channel. And so it's very interesting because maybe a lot of native English speakers do give dwarves Scottish accents and halflings maybe Irish accents. And maybe they make their elves sound a little French. But when we look at other people who speak German, Russian, Spanish as their first language, they've grown up in different parts of the world. When they conceptualize an elf, they don't think of the French language. Or they don't think of an accent of their own native language, like a Scottish accent to English, an Irish accent to English. Right? Because every language that exists has a dialect of some kind, an accent. You know, if you're a native Spanish speaker, I would ask you, you go to Spain and speak Spanish. You go to Puerto Rico and speak Spanish, and then you go to Mexico and speak Spanish. You are going to get Scottish, I mean, like an equivalent. You're going to get Scottish Spanish and Irish Spanish. People who can speak Spanish may not be able to understand everything in those countries because of different words or tones or how quickly someone speaks. And also because someone knows a Romance language like Spanish doesn't mean that you are fully functional in Brazil, which speaks Portuguese. So, something to think about. Fun little cultural notes, right? That's why we do this. This is why we have the workshops. And I love it. Our conversations are wonderful. All right. I'm going to have to get up and take another break, everyone. However, I would love for you to start thinking up of some names, right? What do you want to call this region? What do you want to call the settlement itself? Like this meandering kind of city that follows. Ninbins, I've got a game with Caboose as my DM tomorrow morning. You've got a game with Caboose? I'm sorry if I'm missing a reference, Ninbins. What do you want to call the bamboo grasslands that exist? What do you want to call the forest? Or the river? Do you want to call the red forest something else? Think of that. Oh, gotcha. Oh, did you set... You did set something up? Excellent. That's excellent. Please, Ninbins, I'd love to know how it goes. I don't know if you're streaming it or not. If so, then I'll do my best to try and watch, but I would still like to know what happens and how that goes. Yeah, we have... is Caboose online right now? Yep, right there. Excellent. 107, if you dare to enter a ring, many myths warn you you will die young. You also become invisible to the mortal world, unable to escape the ring, or you are transported instantly to the fairy realm. You might also lose an eye for your foolishness. Either way, you'll be forced to dance around the ring until you die of exhaustion or madness. Ooh. So yeah, and you know what? If this is a city, if this is a center of trade, what if you had the ability then to actually You don't have to take the river. What if something happened that under certain conditions, whatever was in the center of the fairy circle could get teleported to another fairy circle and therefore avoid entire sections of the river and the bamboo forest? But now this like green slime or this green species of fungus is invading the red fungus and is shutting down the teleportation network. You want to talk about doom? I don't know. What if we called this new fungus something like doom caps or doom shrooms? Doom shrooms. That sounds German. Doomschramm. Yeah, they could be a weird kind of adapted aberration, right, Epion? And so now you have this doppelganger that's running this meritocracy and is very comfortable doing so. It may not be the most nice person himself, especially if he's kind of killing people and taking their forms, but he's being threatened by whatever this doom is. And so he hires the players go on to figure out who the real leader is, but yet at the same time, this is a linchpin in trade in the region. It's a necessary place. Will they help this kind of shape-shifting murderer? Will they out him? Will they perhaps endanger everything this place is and does? Ninbins, no stream yet, but I believe he records his games for YouTube for people to request it. If I can get last session's recording, I'll type it up. Yeah. Or if you want to type it up, Ninbins, you can put it in Tales from the Tabletop. But if it is recorded on YouTube, you can come down here to RP-related YouTube also. And you can just put a link here as well. Whichever works best for you, or both. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. All right, everyone. So I'm going to get up. I'm going to take about at least 5-10 minute break. I'm going to stretch, walk around, get some water. You all take a well-deserved mental or bio break yourself, and we'll come back and, I don't know, we'll see what happens, right? Where does the stream go? You know, I haven't played Vampire in a little while. I could always play some Vampire the Masquerade. If you have questions about your own D&D game and you want a little help, we can still run a workshop. It's up to you. Right? We're broadcasting together. We're a bunch of friends hanging out at a table. We'll go from there. Ready? All right. So thank you again. I'll see you shortly when I come back from break.